Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm comedian Preacher Moss. Listen, I took this little bit of time to make this message for my brothers and sisters of Nasiha. I'm your brother, special coordinator over on the other side of the border, if you will, trying to do the work that Nasiha has been doing in Canada. Listen, as you sit there, I want you to understand when they ask you for your support, when they ask you for your help. This is from a commandment, really a prophetic tradition that we, all of us, myself included, is that we provide comfort, compassion, and mercy for the less fortunate. Many of you know that before I was a comedian and while I was a comedian, I was a school teacher. And in that space, I was a child advocate. The same thing that Nasiha is doing right now. So let me throw this out there to you. So when you give your support, you're part of a process. This is not the credit card process or anything like that. You're part of a process that your work and your support will benefit those people that you may never meet and may never see. It's called the unseen, al hype. But the effect that you have upon those people through your generosity and letting them know that they care is from the divine. So, what you waiting on? Get your divine on. Brothers and sisters, continue to support Nasiha. My brothers and sisters, Samaya, Yassine, we love you. Please keep doing the work. I'm Preacher Moss. Get your divine on. Support Nasiha. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm comedian Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Boy, we are racing through Ramadan. We got 8 days left in the game. So I encourage everybody, please get your devotional prayers on. Tonight it could potentially be a night of power. So get dialed in, get your spiritual renewal on. I'm trying to do the same. Quick note. Just want to make sure that everybody has taken care of their information for the virtual iftar. I do have the information from Brother Altaf, so we'll be taking care of that. Special announcement: what we would like to do for our Shout Out Show family and people who are visiting, if you're interested, we would like to send each and every one of you a link to the show, and we would like to make you a special guest on our iftar edition of the Shout Out Show. What that means is the way that you're looking at the computer now, you will be a part of the show. You'll be a guest. We'll bring you on. You'll tell us what you ate and how your Ramadan is going, how your life is going, things you want to share with us, things that you're comfortable sharing with us. And then we will go ahead and move a guest. So we're going to make this a guest show. I think we're going to do this possibly Friday, if not Friday, another day pursuant to that. So what we're going to need is your email address. And now most of you will have your email addresses as a part of the iftar. So we'll be sending you out a link, and we'll do a time. We'll do a half-hour show. We'll make sure everybody gets on and they can to get in. Show day is save money, make investments. Save money, make investments. As much as we've been talking about the cost of inflation and the jobs report, a lot of people are not reporting that inflation is actually coming down. Now, this may be default with all the other things that are going around in the news. I don't know. But I think it's important that as inflation is coming down in some regards, that we can find these little savings where we were spending or we were having expenditures far beyond what we were used to doing, and taking some of that money and being able to create pockets of savings and investments. I'm not a financial planner. This is a much more of a conceptual talk about how we need to redirect and reposition our money. I myself, as an entrepreneur, look at this all the time. I would literally say every day, a couple times a day. But in this particular discussion, I think it's important that all of us actually talk and have a grown conversation about expenditures. The things that we spend money on, the things that we save money for, sometimes the things that we waste money on. I'll be honest, I waste money a lot of times because during Ramadan, sometimes I'm tired. I don't like to go to iftars. Sometimes I just want to rest my body, rest my mind, relax per se. And sometimes, I will reach out that I will reach out to the DoorDash or the Uber Eats just because I don't really feel like getting in the car burning gas. And sometimes your body has rights. You're just tired. So listen, these things and more we're going to talk about here on the Shout Out Show. All right. So I'm not saying that you need to go get your bank book or your checkbook and things like that. We're going to talk fundamentally about how we can save money, but also we're going to talk about fundamentally how we lose money. Now, the whole idea of losing money is not that we lose money, it's that we have expenditures sometimes that are not efficient. And we'll talk about efficiently saving money, efficiently spending money, here on the Shout Out Show. Listen, let me cut to the chase. I'm very, very glad to have you. I hope everybody out there is continuing to have a really blessed and wonderful fast. Thank you so much for tuning into the Shout Out Show. You don't have to be here, but you are here. I'm Preacher Moss. Let's go ahead and start the show. All right. We're back. Looks like we got a full house today in the comment section. Let me go ahead and give some shout outs. Shout out to Sister Eleanor. Hopefully she is feeling better. Shout out to the Golden Girls of 5804, Justina. And a shout out to my main man, Mr. Alexander, who'll be turning 90 pretty soon. Still getting out there driving, get out and doing what he's doing. Appreciate you, Mr. Alexander, for all the years of just guidance and kind words. All right. Before we get started, let me go ahead and get into the comment section. For those who are tuning in for the first time, second time, I believe in my heart of hearts that when people tune into your show, you should acknowledge them. Don't wait till the end of the show to indulge them. Put them at the beginning of the show. Here's my reason why. Several years ago, I was doing a show, and there were people who enjoyed the show. The show went an hour, and when they left, I really wanted to tell them thank you, but they left like about half hour into it. So one of my mentors said, you have to thank people when they are in the place, and they can recognize that their importance is important. Like a person that comes into an auditorium when the place is not filled up, that person is important, not when you got 1,000 people in there. So I like to say all the time when we start the shout out show, I like to give thanks to everybody. There's a thing. He does not give thanks to other person, doesn't give thanks to Allah. So that does resonate with me. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the shout out show and make sure we recognize the Hall of Famers. Sister Ree, what's going on, Sister Ree? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sister Ree is in charge of food services and dietary needs for the Shout Out Show. She has been feeding your brother for quite a number of years. She never asked for anything. She always makes him okay. She tries to give me as much halal stuff as she can. She's got the best turkey spaghetti, chicken spaghetti that's out in the business. We just appreciate you. Family friend. Peace and blessings to you, Sister Ree. And shout out to Brother Derek. And your young lion, Juwan. Next up, my main man, Altaf Rashid. Our steady Eddie, better known as Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, the Canadian envoy to the show. What's going on, beloved? Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for tuning in. Regular. You guys tune in, and I appreciate this. One day, we're going to sit back and go, you remember we used to do those shows, and it'll be a whole different situation, and I'll be talking to you live, inshallah. Thanks so much for joining. Next up, my main man, Roberto Rashid. What's going on, beloved? How are you? Let me apologize. Yesterday when you came on the show, I was kind of going through my monologue. So what happened? To be honest, I didn't see your comments at the end. So forgive me, brother. Thank you so much for tuning in. I like the idea that you're going to be paying it forward. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Paying it forward, man. That means that commerce is important because you get a blessing, I get a blessing, we all get a blessing here on the Shout Out Show. Thanks so much, man. Guide our hearts. I always pray that Allah continue to guide our hearts to do good for the less fortunate. Alhamdulillah. All right, next up, my main man. He used to be called Eric. He used to be called Eric, but I call him the Big E. What's going on, beloved? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for joining the show. Another one of our day ones. Always on the show, always on time, man. All I can do is talk about appreciation for this special group of people. Next up, my main man, Bilal Salahuddin. What's going on, beloved? I should have given you another stipend for one of the grandbabies or something. We'll have to talk about that. I appreciate you tuning in. Again, wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and your queen, Sister Sonia Dalton. We appreciate you guys tuning in on the show all the way from H-Town, Houston. All right, next up, we got Mama San here on the show. Let me see here. There we go. Well, okay, we got Bilal. He said, Slams, shout out family. We got just save money, pool money, make growth investments. We began this conversation a little bit prior in the week, and I just want to kind of add some historical connotation to some of the fact that, we don't hear about minorities, people of color are really getting into the investment game, really getting into the saving game. We're always talking about the spending game, if you will. And I just want to lay that straight because I'm just doing some history. I have to say that our pioneers, if you will, our pioneers that came out of slavery were ingenious. These people, with little or no money, little or no training, little or no education, created foundational wealth that we live on today. It may not be, the Trump building or anything like that, but they have created a situation whereby we are still benefiting, both materially and spiritually. Okay. Let's also give a shout out. You know it is. Shout out to our executive producer, Sister Satana Whitfield. She is the EP of the Shout Out Show. The EP of the Shout Out Show. Let me tell you what that means. The EP of the Shout Out Show, essentially that she has a lot to do in how the coordination of the show rolls. That there's a flow, that there's a tone that we, particularly me, I stick to a script as prescribed, and that we make this thing as professional as we can. And one day I'm going to show you guys the original shout out show, just a clip of it, and you can realize how the show has progressed from there. Like if you can see my studio setup right now, it's totally different. It's like totally different than what it used to be. I remember just sitting with the camera in front of my face, but that is also actually an example of save money, make investments. I made investments in equipment. Okay, let's get to the topic. Save money, make investments. Let me throw this out because I was talking to a guy who was in finance, African American brother, good brother. He went to school at Brown, real astute guy. And I asked him what it is about black folks, Latinos, um, people of color. He said, "Why is it?" I said, "Why is it that we're not financially in the places where we should be?" When I say financially in the places where we should be, I'm talking about not just spending money, investing money. I mean making decisions about where money is going to be dispersed, where it's going to be distributed. Like, bond hearings, tax hearings. Why are we not in those spaces? And he said the most interesting thing that he's heard in a long time. He said, well, there are two lines of communication when it comes to financial awareness and financial acuity with our neighborhoods, with our communities. And I said, can you explain to that? And I said, can you expound on that? And what he said was, we for a lot of years have been given a debt narrative. And I said, well, I want to know more about the debt narratives. He said, we've been given a debt narrative for a number of years that we had to follow, and we followed the debt narrative because it was, of course, underwritten by law. It was underwritten by law. He said, up until almost the Great Depression in the late 20s, he said that this narrative was meant to make sure that there was a pocket of people, a large pool of people who would be subservient to tax law, subservient to bank law, subservient to bank codes. That our any kind of an endeavor or relationship that we have with the bank was going to be in a situation where we were going to be exploited. I said, well, what switched? I said, what switched? He said, the thing that switched with people coming out of slavery, our forefathers and foremothers came out of slavery. He said there was a switch because there was a divining, if you will, any aspect of, can you invest in education? Can in education be a money investment that pays down the road? Nobody ever knew. No one ever knew because this is slavery. You couldn't read, you couldn't write because it's a violation. You could get whipped, you could be killed. He said, but the thing that was remarkable is that people took money, invested in foundations, churches, schools. He said, and the way they were able, in many regards, to maintain these things because the powers that be, the people who were oppressing them, only looked at a church as it's just a church. They don't look at a school as it's just a school. They never really made the connection of African Americans owning property. So the proliferation of churches during the South, it was just black people praying to a white God. No, it was black people understanding that this building on Sunday is used for church. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we running business out of here. The the intellectual capacity to do that is amazing because we don't do that now. If you think about the growth of African American philanthropy, it's not undergirded by the fact that they were nonprofits. They were need based, being able to see what it is. And in that space, you have things like a Renaissance. You have things like a Harlem. You have things like a Sugar Hill. And this is not people, and it's not because of, just because of music and jazz and culture. It's because people established a new business understanding for the businesses that they owned. Taking cues from other people that came over and bought up blocks and things like that, people began to say, wait a minute, we need our businesses. A large part of that had to do with segregation. A large part of that had to do with discrimination. People did not believe, one, that black folks should own anything. We definitely don't want to go around people who we esteem have absolutely no value. But what becomes more and more readily available is the mindset. So the idea of saving money is not just saving money, it is being discretionary with your funds. Making investments today is interesting because you have so many people out there who are fighting for money. So your local bank is in an argument, in a fight, in a competition with all the other banks to have your money to keep in holdings so that they can make investments off of your money. While they may give you 2% or 1% off of your money in a savings or checking, they are making investments where they are negotiating with other banks for much larger investment rates, much larger, I want to say, interest rates. So, what does that mean? Make investments. Make investments mean I'm going to ask everybody, including myself, that let's begin a small, short study of things that are out there that we feel can be of benefit to us in the short term and long term in terms of investments. We've had several shows where we talked about home ownership to as a pathway to middle class, as a pathway to social mobility and things like that, financial mobility. What happens when you have the home? What happens when you have the home? What are you going to do with that home? And a lot of people go, I'm going to take equity out of the house. And you can do that. That's the beautiful part of having a home. That having a home gives you the benefit that you can pull equity out of your house and make investments. That being said, you have to do a long and a short study of what things are out there. I recently decided I wanted to start a small business, and you can look it up. Just look it up as part of doing your due diligence. Don't invest if you're not ready. But I remember going through the process of trying to find a small startup business that costs less than $20,000 to start up. I'm going to tell you, they're still lighting up my phone right now. And when I mean lighting up my phone right now, they send you text, da da da, would you interested in this business? And when you do click a small portfolio and look at how they do business, where you're not actually taking the money, if you will, to start up your business. You're taking the money to be a part of a franchise, to use their name, and then you have to come up with another pot of money. That being said, what investments are out there? One of the investments that is out there is um, not buying houses right now, but buying houses smartly. When I say buying houses smartly, we are in a space where the housing market is down. They are doing buybacks for homes. They are doing situations where they will buy down the interest rate on loans. We're not a part of it because we're not hearing about it. They are the builders, if you will. Understanding just a case study of the builders. The builders are giving back money to buy homes for people who buy homes because they have to get them off the books. Think about this. You can save 25 to 30 to 40,000, $50,000 on a house because a builder is in a bad way. Because a builder's holding 15, 20 houses he's got to get rid of. Because if he doesn't get rid of them, he can't get the next pot of money to go out and build more houses. These are the things that we need to be talking about. There should be some kind of website for us to be able to look at spots where builders are in trouble. They're distressed homes because they're not being able to sell them. That's number one. The other part in terms of making investments is making an investment in yourself. One of the best things I ever did years ago was investing in myself. It started with Allah Made Me Funny. It was a $750 investment. I put it in on a logo and a lot of fine tuning of speech when I would get in front of people that had a good pitch about a tour that was coming down the road. You know, when you see the ads here on the Shout Out Show, they're part of a process. I put the ads here on the Shout Out Show because I can make them for little or nothing. What am I paying? What am I paying with? I'm paying with creativity. But there are people who need ads. There are people who need materials. There are people who need consulting. We've been here on the Shout Out Show for quite a number of years. I'm going to say this. There are people on the Shout Out Show that I personally know have reached out and have been able to make investments, have been able to create small business and pockets of revenue doing different things. I know sometimes I'll reach out to people and say, hey, listen, I can't do this one. Or I'm doing a different part of a deal. And I tell another person, you do that part of the deal. Do that part of the deal. People, I'm investing in you. I need you to make money on this deal because you are now producing revenue and you're relevant in a longer part of a process. And that you'll learn from me and you'll go do the next deal. So when you'll call me up, preach, I have this deal. I'm like, what does it look like? Well, X, Y, and Z, do that. Making investments is also the fact that you really have to do your homework. So as much as I save money, I realized that during the whole process of making investments, I learned to be a lot more astute in terms of my financial understanding of how money works. Now, listen, we're going to be right back here on the Shout Out Show. Don't you move. Talking about save money, make investments. We'll be right back. Yeah, so my first, I guess, introduction to convenient urgent care, they were providing masks and supplies for people who didn't have supplies during COVID. And I went to pick them up and was going to take them around to some of the local areas. And I ran into a brother named Ijaz Saeed. And as I began to talk to Ijaz, it was very, very clear that this brother had a vision for community service. Oftentimes, when you have urgent cares in a situation that they're not necessarily doing a prevention or education. He came up with the term a home of the smart patient, and I understand what that means. It means that people really want to be in tune about their health, but at the same time, they also want to be in tune about the people who are providing health. This is a very organic relationship. And little did I know, a year or so later, I would actually have to call on their services when I was in dealing with some physical trauma, if you will. And I have to say, they held my hand and they took me through the process. The offerings of telehealth, the offerings of being able to walk in consistent. I was in pretty bad shape, but they treated me like I was the president of the United States, not that one, Obama. Okay, I'm joking. But what I want to say is the professionalism, the dedication, the care, compassion, and the consistency, all the things I just named, makes convenient urgent care the space you want to go to. 3 locations in the Houston area: Cypress, Pasadena, and Parker Road in Houston. But I want to say the overall conceptual understanding of convenient urgent care is that they care for their patients, even when the patients don't know how to care for themselves. Check them out. All right, shout out Convenient Urgent Care. Yes, yes, yes. They're the home of the smart patient, a home of don't get the COVID. Can we put up Brother Rashid's comment, Sister Satana? Let me see. Okay. Brother Roberto said there are various types of insurance policies besides term and whole life. You can become your own boss. You can become your own bank. I didn't get to finish the rest of it. The younger you start, the better over time. This is true. Um, it's very true. One of the things we can do in terms of saving our money and making investments is that we educate our children, our offspring on money, not just the overall taking it in thing. We're not doing that. We're talking about how you come into money, relationships with money. Um, my aunt Maxine has a company. Uh, She has a nonprofit, Financial Independence for Blacks. Uh, you've seen her ads before. Be financialindependent.com. And she has worked a process and a curriculum for young folks to be able to understand why money is important. That money can be your friend, but money can also be your enemy, or ignorance of money can also be your enemy. We're going to have her on the show fairly soon, but I think it's important that we actually talk about these type of things because a lot of times folks are not really hearing, the way money works. It took me a bunch of years, as Brother Rashid was pointing out. It took me a bunch of years to understand how money actually works. That sometimes saving money is not enough. If you put it under a mattress for 10 years, you just got the same amount of money. You're not putting it into a system and making money work for you. I also believe that we also have to be a little bit more open to what our financial liabilities are, beginning to talk about our wins and our losses in terms of our investments. Sometimes we're very, very to the chest about our money and how it's spent and things like that. But we are a community that has thrived in the absence of money. That we have lived by our intellect. We also live by the fact that we have an understanding of how money can be used against us, and in a base situation, we know how it is that we've been treated like currency. We were assets. That's what slavery was about. So, not to get too far off the track here, but let me throw this out that people, this is really interesting. I know I had an assignment when I was in seventh grade, and it talked about banking, and it talked about this whole idea of interest. And I remember writing a paper about interest, and I wrote that interest scared me. And the reason why interest scared me is because I was looking from the other side of it. I was looking at that somehow interest was going to be owed by me. I had been in a situation where God love my family. They're amazing, beautiful people, but everybody was in debt darn near. Everybody owed somebody. And, the whole idea of owning things outright was just such a long process that you couldn't see it. My parents, my grandparents, folks, man, I mean, they were well into their 60s, into their 70s. My mom owned her house. It was a beautiful thing, but it's such a process because we take all these off roads in terms of refinancing and things like that, not understanding that we're getting in our own way in some regards. That taking money out sounds good, but that money's going to come back. Forget the algorithms of the banking industry. If you take something out, you're going to have to put it back. And if you don't do it the next day or the next day or the next day, and you wait a year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you're going to triple the money that you owe. But I remember thinking about interest this way also, that we can capitalize. Now, Islamically, we don't believe in riba. But even the companies like Guidance and folks like that and these Sharia compliant banks, they don't call it interest, but it's interest. However, if you are on your own merits, developing your own business, that you are investing in things that you think are prudent, are valuable, are things that you think are going to grow in your best interest in terms of your financial wallet, you have to pursue those things, but also ask around. Here's the deal about having money and making investments. People need your money. People want your money. But here's the beautiful part. People are willing to bid for your money. What you have to do is figure out a communication whereby you let them know the shop is open, but you got to bring your best. So listen, this is the wrap up here on the Shout Out Show. I know we talked about a number of things. The one thing I want us to do, number one, make sure we educate our children on money. Number two, in saving, be hard on yourself. Talk about how you don't save money, why you don't save money, where this money goes. Change your spending habits, change your saving habits. Also, audition people whom you may want to invest in. All right? This is the Shout Out Show. Peace and love. Let me throw this out here before we go. Make sure you go to permissiblelaughter@gmail.com because we're going to be sending out. If we don't have your email, brother. I think we do have brother Roberto's. If you're out there, we don't have your email. Please send it to us. We're going to send you a link for a show on Friday. I think we said Friday, right, Satana? We're going to do it Friday, inshallah, tomorrow, and we're going to have people on the show. So just tune in. You're going to get a link. Don't freak out. Click, and we're going to have you on the show, inshallah. That's our show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Save money, make investments. Preach Moss.